On January 3rd, 1978, in a quiet neighborhood just outside Springfield, Illinois, a family of 3 vanished without a single sound. No signs of forced entry, no packed bags, no goodbye. Just a front door left half open, a pot of coffee still warm, and a single lamp in the upstairs window, still glowing 3 nights later. 46 years later, nobody's sure what happened inside the cold house on Ash Lane. But the town never forgot the silence. Low hum of wind, fade in snow-covered driveway. A mailbox with peeling paint reads, Ellis. James Ellis was a history teacher, quiet, dependable. Rebecca, his wife, ran a hair salon from their garage. Local, warm, everyone knew her. Their daughter, Amy, 7 years old, bright, curious, always carrying around a red notebook. They weren't rich, but they were liked. And more importantly, they were steady. The day began like any other winter morning. Rebecca served oatmeal. Amy had her spelling test. James called in late to work, citing snowdrifts on the driveway. By 3:45 p.m., a neighbor noticed something strange. Amy never got off the school bus. By 6:10 p.m., Rebecca's 5 o'clock hair appointment was still waiting. And by 9:30 p.m., the front door was open. The house was completely dark, except for one glowing lamp in Amy's bedroom window. Dispatch, we're at 1429 Ash Lane. No signs of entry. Mail still in the box. Cars here. Back door locked. Inside looks lived in. The responding officer said it felt like a freeze frame. Coats still on the hooks. Dinner plates in the sink. The TV left on Channel 7, playing static. But no sign of James, Rebecca, or Amy. For the first 48 hours, police believed the Ellises left town willingly. Maybe they were avoiding debt, maybe a family dispute. But nothing was missing. Not wallets, not toothbrushes, not even Amy's school shoes. Then came the call from Amy's school librarian. She returned a book that morning, wrote in the return slip, "We won't be coming back." That was her handwriting, but it didn't sound like her. Amy's red notebook was found under her bed, 3 pages torn out. On the last written page was a single line. "It's not just the wind that knocks on the window at night." On January 5th, detectives returned with a forensic team. In the basement, they found freshly turned dirt near the furnace, a spot that looked recently dug, then filled back in. But when they unearthed it, it was empty. Just a small cloth doll buried 6 inches deep, missing its eyes. Amy's aunt confirmed that wasn't hers. By the end of the week, the local rumor mill was churning. A few neighbors claimed they'd seen strange shadows in the upstairs window at 3 a.m. Others mentioned James had been acting different the past month, walking into the woods behind the house after midnight. And Rebecca? She told a friend that someone had been calling, breathing on the line, and hanging up. On January 10th, a full week after the disappearance, a gas station attendant 40 miles out said a man matching James's description filled up his tank. When asked how he was doing, the man replied, "We're finally clean. We're finally alone." He paid in cash, drove away, and was never seen again. We'll dive into the land the Ellis house was built on, reveal an older case from 1949, and discover why the basement may have been hiding more than just a doll. The Ellis family moved into 1429 Ash Lane in 1975. But the land itself had a story long before them. Before the brick house, there was a wooden structure here, a single-floor cabin built in 1923 by a man named Thomas Granger. He lived alone, and one winter, he died alone. In December of 1949, a boy delivering milk knocked on the door of the Granger cabin. He found no footprints, no smoke, and the door slightly ajar. Inside, Granger was seated in a wooden chair, eyes open, frozen solid. But that wasn't the strange part. Every clock in the house had stopped at 3:17 a.m., and carved into the ice on the window next to him were the words, "I said no more noise." When the Ellis family bought the home, it was sold cheap, $17,000 below market. They were told it was due to foundation history. What the realtor didn't say was that the original cabin had burned down in 1952, and that two previous buyers after that had moved out within weeks, without listing the reason. The house always had a feel to it. Not haunted, no, just tired, like it didn't want to be lived in again. During a secondary search of the Ellis home, a detective opened a narrow crawl space behind the furnace, sealed by a false wall. Inside, they found a hand-drawn map, showing the house from above, but the basement was drawn differently. The sketch showed an extra room, one that didn't exist in real construction records, a room marked simply as down. When forensic officers removed a segment of the basement wall near the crawl space, they found it. A narrow stairwell, cement, no railing, leading down 8 steps into a small square space, maybe 6 feet across. No light, no ventilation, just scratch marks on the walls. Dozens, maybe hundreds, carved into the concrete, like someone was trying to climb out. On one wall, they found something else. A child's name, scratched so deep it split the wall. Ellis. With the media quiet and the case going cold, one retired officer stepped forward. His name was John Calvert, and he had a box labeled Ash Lane. Inside, a stack of missing persons reports. From 1961, 1965, 1971, all from within 3 miles of that same property. All children under 10 years old. None were ever found, and none were officially linked. Until now. January 17th, 2 weeks after the Ellis disappearance, a janitor at Amy's school reported something bizarre. He claimed he heard a school bell ring at 2:47 a.m. When he checked the hallway, every locker had been opened. The next morning, in Amy's desk, was a drawing. The janitor swore it hadn't been there the night before, but it was Amy's notebook, and the pencil was still warm. In rural bars and roadside diners, the older locals mention a phrase in hushed tones, the down room. It wasn't in books, not on paper, but everyone over 60 remembered hearing it. If you're bad, they'll send you to the down room. You don't scream in the down room, no one hears it. The down room isn't a place, it's a deal. 2 months later, in a consignment shop 70 miles away, a second-hand winter coat was purchased. Inside the lining was a torn page. They don't come at night. They come after the night. If we stay quiet, they won't find us. But James talked, so now we all have to go down. At 6:10 p.m., Rebecca Ellis misses her 5 o'clock hair appointment. At 6:23, the street light in front of Ash Lane House flickers, then dies. At 6:50 p.m., a neighbor across the street, 68-year-old Henry Doyle, steps outside to feed his dog and sees something odd. The Ellis' living room light is on, but it's strobing, like a heartbeat. Then, it stops, and everything goes black. At 7:13 p.m., Rebecca's salon phone rings. A message is left on the answering machine. It's a whisper, not words, just shaky breathing for 11 seconds. Then a click. Police trace the call. The signal bounced through a regional tower near Ash Ridge Creek. That tower was decommissioned in 1973. At 8:06 p.m., neighbor Henry Doyle tries walking his dog past the Ellis home. The animal refuses to go near the driveway, sits down, shakes. Henry, annoyed, drags the dog to the edge. As they pass the fence, he hears something, a metallic dragging sound, like furniture scraping across tile. Except the windows are dark, and no one is supposed to be inside. G. At 8:19 p.m., a young girl named Mallory Jensen, who lived 2 blocks over, told her mother she saw Amy walking in the snow near the woods behind Ash Lane. Mallory said, "Amy wasn't wearing shoes, and she was carrying a flashlight pointed at the ground." She waved, but Amy didn't respond. Police investigated footprints in that area. They found a child's track pattern in the snow, but they stopped suddenly, just 20 feet into the woods, as if Amy had simply disappeared. At 8:45 p.m., a local amateur radio enthusiast, Mason Pruitt, picked up a strange repeating frequency on his ham radio. "Not down, not down, not, no, down, down. It's waiting." Then a loud bang, then silence. Mason recorded it, gave it to the sheriff. The sheriff lost the tape. At 9:22 p.m., the Ellis house appears dark again. At 9:47 p.m., the light in Amy's bedroom flicks on, then stays on for exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes. Why 3:17? That was the same time every clock stopped in the 1949 Granger incident. When asked why she remembered it so clearly, neighbor Mary Kinley said, "Because I looked at my own clock, and it flickered. Then it stopped at 3:17 too." Police reviewed a gas station camera 2 blocks away. At 10:03 p.m., a dark sedan pulls in, then turns around. The license plate is unreadable, but the man inside is visible for 1 frame. When shown to James's brother, he said, "That's not James, but he's wearing James's jacket." At 11:12 p.m., an emergency call was placed from the Ellis landline. It was 4 seconds long. "Operator, 911, what's your emergency?" He came back, but he's not in his skin. Click. Phone records confirm the call, but the line was disconnected at 9:20 p.m. The house had no power after 9:30. When police arrived the next morning, everything was cold: the house, the air, even the coffee pot. But the light in Amy's room was still glowing. The bulb had been removed. An old maintenance worker claims to know the truth about the basement, but he hasn't spoken since 1981. And when he finally does, he doesn't tell the story. He sings it. The cold house on Ash Lane. This part introduces a mysterious old man, the first living person connected to the down room. What he reveals doesn't come in words. In February 1981, 3 years after the Ellis family vanished, a former school custodian named Walter Reeves was admitted to a psychiatric care unit in Decatur, Illinois. He was 63 years old, retired, lived alone, no family. He hadn't spoken to anyone in over 6 years. But when doctors played local radio static in the therapy room, Walter began to hum. It was soft, off-key, but deliberate. The hospital psychologist recorded the humming. When played back at a slower speed, the melody resembled a 1940s lullaby titled "Go Down, Sleep Deep," a song originally written in 1948 for orphans in a state-run children's home located on the same land where the Ellis house was eventually built. That orphanage, it was shut down in 1951 after multiple children went missing. It was called Ash Haven School for Boys. A state file surfaced in 1983. Walter Reeves had once worked at Ash Haven as a young janitor. According to archived reports, he was the only staff member present on the night of the fire that destroyed the original building. Investigators at the time asked what happened. Walter's only reply? It asked for the quiet ones. After that, he went silent, forever. In 1991, after Walter's death, a locked metal box was found under the floorboards of his apartment. Inside were 3 items: a rusted pocket watch, stuck at 3:17 a.m., a melted doll's head, and an audio tape labeled "Do Not Rewind." They made me clean the down room, but it was already clean, so I just watched. One of Walter's last journal entries read, "The down room is not a room. It's a question, and if you answer it, something answers back." When asked what the question was, Walter didn't speak. He simply wrote on the wall, "What is the cost of silence?" In 1992, a demolition crew clearing an old school basement 2 counties over found an original blueprint for Ash Haven. In red ink, someone had marked a chamber beneath the foundation, labeled "Restricted Level B, no staff entry, 24-hour lockdown." That chamber was directly beneath where the Ellis home would later stand. On the back of Walter's hospital file, scribbled in pencil, were 4 chilling lines. He watches from below. He waits where echoes die. The deeper the silence, the louder he climbs. No one knew what it meant, but it was signed. A nurse at the Decatur facility claims that once a year, always on January 3rd, a woman would come visit Walter. She never spoke. She never left a name. She would simply stand at the window of his room, hold up a red notebook, and leave. The nurse described her as early 40s, pale, freckles, looked like she hadn't aged in decades. When shown Amy Ellis's school photo, she turned white. After Walter's room was emptied, it remained sealed. But one night, years later, a janitor passing by claimed he heard humming, the same lullaby. The room was empty, the lights were off, but the floorboards were vibrating softly, like something below was singing. We return to Ash Lane. A new owner buys the Ellis property in 2002 and digs too deep. He finds the hidden chamber, sealed for over 50 years. And when he opens it, he doesn't come back up alone. In the spring of 2002, a 42-year-old man named Daniel Kellman bought the long-abandoned Ellis property at 1429 Ash Lane for $6,000. Divorced, no kids. And, as his sister later said, he liked to fix what other people threw away. Daniel moved in by May. By August, he had already begun renovation. including the basement. On August 17th, Daniel wrote in an online restoration forum, "Found a bricked-over sublevel in the crawl space. Smells like rust and wood smoke. Going to open it. May need a second air vent." No one replied. At 3:17 a.m. that night, Daniel's neighbor reported hearing metal grinding, then a single loud slam, followed by nothing. On August 19th, Daniel failed to show up to a contractor appointment. Police were called for a wellness check. They found the house unlocked, his tools untouched, coffee brewed, still warm. In the basement, the wall behind the furnace was open, a tunnel dug by hand. It led to a sealed iron door. Etched into it, in jagged markings, "Do not let him out." Forensics brought in a historian, a structural team, and a priest. All refused to enter beyond the door, but one officer, Detective James Halbrook, did. What he saw was never released in full, but his report includes the following lines: "No floor, just soil, like a graveyard. Children's shoes, a mirror facing down. Something humming, even after I left." Halbrook resigned 6 days later. He never spoke of it again. In 2003, a paranormal investigation group visited the home. They set up thermal and motion-sensitive cameras overnight. Most of the footage was corrupted, but one clip survived. 2:16 a.m. camera shows the basement doorway. No movement, no sound. Then, a shape, not walking, not crawling, slipping into frame. Its arms bend the wrong way. Its face, blank, no features, but it hums. Then it turns to the camera and waves. Finally, in 2004, a deep-ground radar team scanned beneath the Ellis house. 14 feet below the foundation was a square chamber. No entrance, no stairs, just air pockets and organic material. The chamber measured exactly 6 feet wide, 6 feet deep, 6 feet across. That's when the town sealed the basement. The city declared the structure condemned. In 2006, one final experiment was conducted by a fringe group of researchers. They placed a full-length mirror in the basement entrance. According to footage, between 3:15 and 3:17 a.m., the reflection showed a bedroom, Amy Ellis's bedroom, but it was modern, with posters from the early 2000s, and Amy, standing in the reflection, wearing a hoodie, a red notebook in hand, smiling. Nobody knows exactly what the down room is, but every person who's ever come near it describes the same thing: an overwhelming urge to listen, a presence that knows your thoughts, and a voice that says, "You don't have to remember if you stay." Those who resist forget. Those who obey go down. In 2011, the town finally demolished the Ellis house. The ground was covered in reinforced concrete, 12 feet thick. No construction allowed, no digging, no records, just a plaque. It reads, "In memory of those who vanished in silence." And beneath it, a line carved in the cement. We tried to stay quiet, but silence was never enough. If you're ever driving through Springfield, Illinois, and you see a cracked driveway leading to nowhere, with one flickering light still hanging from a post, don't stop, and whatever you do, don't listen.